Welcome back to Grindmonkey Designs build of the Prusa MK3S 3D printer. We are now on Chapter 8, which is the electronics assembly. It's the last part of the actual build. After this, Chapter 9 will be some pre-flight checks. So let's get on with the electronics assembly. Step 1, we gather the tools we'll need. We will need the screwdriver, the needle nose pliers, and 2 of the Allen keys. We'll be using the 2.5 millimeter with the little nub at the end, and then also a 1.5 millimeter Allen key. Step 2, we will gather the parts for the Icy Door. So first thing that we need is the actual Icy Door itself. We do need the hinge top and the hinge bottom. Woo, went flying. We also need 2 M310 screws and 1 M3NS nut. For step 3, I will take the door and I'm going to place the nut in this slot. I'll check the alignment with the Allen key and it's perfectly fine. Note that that nut can fall out. We want to be aware of that because that nut could actually later on short out some of the electronics. We want to make sure it really is secure in there. For step 4, all we have to do is identify the proper mount holes on the printer. So on the back side of the printer frame, the side with the motor, if you come down here around level with the bed, you'll see the first hole. And the other hole we're going to be working with is above that. We're going to skip the hole that's above it into the side and instead come directly above. It's that next hole that happens to be right under the middle hole on the inside of the frame. So that's step 4. Step 5, I'll take the lower hinge door, I'll prep it with one of my screws. So I'm going to, what I want to do is attach it here with this extruding piece up. So I'll place the screw in and let me go ahead and attach that to this lower hole. For step 6, we're simply putting the Icy Door on the frame. So I will take the door. You can see this would be the inside of the door, outside of the door, with the inside facing out, and I'm on the back of the machine. I'm going to slide it down over that lower hinge. Now I can take my top hinge. I want to face the protrusion down, the hinge down, and place my screw in there. Then I can go ahead and slide this into the door and line it up and attach it to the frame. Step 7, we're going to do some cable management with the X-axis motor. So let me move my cable down. I'm going to take the last of my textile sleeves. Note that it is shorter than the full length of the cable. Do not worry about that. Let me wrap my wires or my cables in here. With the cable wrapped, let me slide this up. I'll take my cable tie and I'm going to secure it up here with the cable tie. Now this step with the cable tie is going to help us finish with assembling the case. And that's its only purpose. We can actually, though, according to the instructions, just leave this cable tie in place. Let me tighten that using my pliers. For step 8, I'm going to prepare the parts for the Icy base. So what I need is the actual Icy motherboard, the Icy case. I need 4 of my M3 and my M3N nuts, and then I need the M3NS square nuts, 4 of those, and then I need 6 of the M3x10 screws. For step 9, I'm going to place the square nuts into the base. Let me show you where those will be. So there is a cable holder, and on the outside we see these 2 slots for the nuts. And I'll be placing those in momentarily. I want to show you where the other two go. Rotating it to the side, on the outside, there's one slot, and on the inside, and this is for the heat bed attachment, there's another slot. So I'm going to insert all of those, make sure that they're secure, and I'll check them with an Allen wrench. For step 10, I'll take the base, and on the back side here, there are on the corners some nut traps. I'm going to place my remaining nuts into those traps. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now let me rotate this. I'm going to leave the open end out here. Now I'm going to take the board. I'm going to go ahead and put this here. Be careful. And now I will go with my 4 screws. I will affix that to the base. And I'll be careful because I don't want to break the board or the base. Moving on to step 11, I will identify the holes for the cover. So here we can see the other side of the cover. I'm just coming up here, and even with that, I'm going to put in one of these screws, just 3 to 4 turns for right now. I'm going to come down to the bottom here, identify the hole that is parallel with that, and again, I'll put it in only for 3 or 4 screws for the time being. For step 12, I'm just going to look at the case itself. I see these 2 slots, and I just want to show you how those are going to align with the screws we just put into the frame. Okay, so you can see that's where it's going to go. I will take the X-axis motor. I'm going to take this end and I'm going to connect it. So looking here with the screws at the bottom to orient us, I want to go to this top column, that very first slot. I'm going to place that in. Okay, and now I'm going to take the cable, and there is a little hole here on the side for the cable to slide through. I don't want to make it really taut. It's okay to have some slack. Now for step 13, I'm going to put the base onto the frame, again using those slots I had showed you. Before I do that, I want to show you the side, and here with that hole, that's how I'm going to access the top screw to tighten it. The bottom screw is easily accessible, so there's no trick there. For cable management, we need to rotate the Prusa onto its side, rotate it onto the side with the PSU. Now take note whether you have the black PSU or the silver PSU. We have the black one, so what we're instructed to do in step 14 is to come over here, and with these cables that are coming out of the PSU, I want to make sure that they are on the underside of the extrusion. I'm going to move these out of the way for a moment. And then the next step, 15, is to take the cable for the Z-axis. Okay, you'll see this divot here in the frame. I'm just going to put that's ultimately where it's going to go. I'm going to take, let me just get those out of the way. I'm going to take a cable tie. There are 2 holes here. Let me slide one of the cable ties down here. And let's get that under, all right, and then I'm going to come up here and let me feed the cable tie carefully into itself so I can start to tighten it. All right, but before tightening it all the way, let's get it in place. What I want to do is take my my Z-axis cable and make sure that it is being held by that cable tie. Okay, so when I tighten it, it is holding it in that position. Okay, I will trim off the excess. I don't want to tighten it so much that I snap the wires. So I've already snipped the excess of the nylon tie down here. For step 16, I'm going to feed this up, and I'm going to take hold of these other cables that are coming out of the PSU, the panic cable and the 2 power ones, and all of them are going to go together. This is just cable management for step 16. And you'll see these 2 holes here. I'm going to secure them again with another nylon tie. Step 17, I'm going to continue up this frame. I'm going to take one more nylon tie and let me feed that through these two holes. I'm going to take all the cables from the previous steps and place them here to connect, but they're going to pick up a hitchhiker, which will be the cable from the y-axis motor. So I'm just going to come over here and then I will secure the cable tie around all these cables. Step 18 will concern the cables on the back of the LCD display. So I'm going to take both of those cables, keep them together, and you can see the extrusion up here. And you can see this channel on the top. There's a channel also underneath here. And I am going to tuck the cables into that channel. And I'm going to go the whole length of the channel. Okay, now they're tucked in. I'll have to take a photo after to show you. I'm going to take my cable bundle, move that down and out of the way, and I'm going to temporarily place the cables from the LCD on right here. So now that step 18 placed the LCD cables back here, I'm going to take my cable bundle for step 19 and bring it over the LCD cables. Now I'm not including the LCD cables necessarily in the bundle. I'll take another zip tie. There are two more holes here. Let me go ahead and attach the cable bundle to the frame using the zip tie. And of course I'll cut the excess as soon as I have this in place. For step 20, I fed one of the cable ties through the two holes underneath the Z-axis motor. Now I'm going to take the LCD cables and slide those through that giant hoop that I've made. I'm also going to take the cable from the Z-axis motor and slide that through. And then I will take my cable bundle and get those all the way through as well. Okay. And I'll pull all my cables through here and make sure. See, I'm missing some, so I'm glad I checked. All right, so I have all of them pulled through, and now I'll go ahead and tighten the cable. Careful not to pinch anything or damage the wires. When I finished the last step, I went ahead and put the printer back on its feet. So now I can move on to step 22, which is gathering parts for the following steps. What I need are 4 of the M3x10 screws, the heat bed clip, and the extruder cable clip. So this heat bed cable clip, the way you can tell it is tell these two pieces apart. You'll notice the channel is on the diagonal for the heat bed clip, and the one for the extruder clip is not. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the next step, which is to take the heat bed cable, and it's coming directly from the heat bed. I'm going to open up that, and I'm going to bring it into, wrap that over, and I'm going to seat it into the channel right here. I'm going to take my clip and let's see. Okay, take my clip. I'm going to put this on, and then I will go ahead and secure it. For steps 24, 25, and 26, we're going to attach some of our cables into this box here. So let me show you what we're attaching. I'm going to take the first set of power cables from the PSU. If you saw the earlier video, we had marked which cables were which, so we knew which was the first set versus the second set. So we just put a piece of tape on it. So I'm going to take that first set of cables, and I want the positive on the first screw, or under the first screw, and the negative under the next screw. And I have released all the screws just to demonstrate. With the prongs facing me, okay, and I'm looking for the wire that is red, and that's this one. I know it's positive. I'll slide it underneath that washer. I'll do the same with the negative. I'm going to slide both of those underneath washers. And I'll take my second set of cables. I want to put positive to positive, which is that third one. So again, the red cable, let me slide that under. I'll tighten those screws afterwards. I'll put the -1 in, which is the 4th position. All right. And before I tighten them, let me also just show you that I'm going to take the heat bed cables. Let's see. Here they are. And I'm going to place those in positions 5 and 6. Number 5 is positive, so I'll put the red end, prongs facing me. Okay, and then I'll put the black end, which is the negative. And you can see it's a little tricky. I'm doing this for the camera mostly, but when I shut it off, I'll make sure everything is in the correct position. To recap, positive in the first slot, negative in the second slot. So red, black, then it goes red, black again, and those are the cables from the PSU. Then I'm taking the heat bed and I'm going to put the positive, the red first, and then the negative, black next, and then I will tighten them. For step 27, I'm gathering more parts. I am just going to go ahead and get this PSU cover and 2 of the M3x10 screws. Step 28, I'm going to put this cover on and screw that in. Before I do so, I want to do one last wire check, and I'm going to point out on the PSU, the polarity for the power cables is positive, positive, negative, negative. And you'll recall that when we were dealing with the Icy board, the orientation was positive, negative, positive, negative. So there is a difference there. Be sure you've attached everything correctly before putting this cover on and proceeding. For step 29, we're going to attach the Y and Z cables, motor cables, to the Icy board. We already had placed the X earlier. You can see that it's the X. It has a little X marked on it. So I'm going to take the Y motor cable, and that's going to go below the X one. Snap that in there. Make sure I have the correct orientation. There we go. And then I will take the Z cable, or both of the Z cables, it doesn't matter which order, and I'm going to put these in these 2 slots next to each other. So here's one. If I could just see the hole, and it's hard to see black on black. There we go. And then I will take the other Z motor cable and put that in side by side with the other one. Okay, so now I have all of these cables in order, so it goes X, Y, Z, Z. For step 30, I'm going to take the panic cable, that's the black and white cable, and I'm going to insert it into the Icy board right over here. I'm trying not to block the camera too much. All right, so now it's there. I want to also be aware of its positioning. I'm going to tuck it over here because I'm going to be putting more wires or more cables in a little bit later. So let me just tuck that in. Then I'll take the thermistor cable, this black one with the green marker, and I am going to place that also on the board, and I'm going to come to this first slot here. And I will insert that. Now we're going to connect the extruder cable bundle. So for step 31, I need to find out where the nylon filament is going to go. So we're going to come back over here. I'm going to use a piece of the silver filament since it's hard to see black on black. And this is where the filament is going to go ultimately. Now, we'll come back to this cable. I don't see the nylon filament in here. I suspect it's around here. Now, 32 will have us twist the sleeve, and that's going to tighten the sleeve and essentially shorten it. I'm twisting the sleeve without twisting the cables inside. And once I have that filament showing, we'll proceed to the next step. Okay, so I needed both hands, and I also needed Erica's assistance to go ahead and twist the nylon sleeve around the cables without twisting the cables. It effectively did shorten it, and it did reveal the filament. So now I'm going to take that filament and feed it through that hole that I had shown earlier. A little hard to see because it's black on black. And then I will have my cable bundle. And then over here too, actually, before I get ahead of myself, and I can't see, so Erica's gonna have to give me a thumbs up. I wanna make sure that the filament isn't poking any of these cables. Okay, and now that it is where I want it, I can go ahead and take the extruder cable clip, and I will place that over the bundle and secure it with my 2 M3x10 screws. So I had to get a work light to illuminate this area. I'm having a hard time seeing what's going on in there. I hope this is helpful for you as well. We're working now on step 35, and we're going to start connecting the actual extruder cable bundle, all these individual wires in here. I'm going to start first with this red one, and that is the extruder heater cable. And that is going to go right back here at the bottom. Let me snap that in. Okay, so that's in place. Then I'm going to take this black cable, and that's the hot end fan. It is marked as a fan. And I'm going to come here and place that one next to it. Okay, and that one's in. And then I'm going to take this yellow, red, and black one, which is the print fan. And I'm going to put that one, let me get stuff out of the way so I can see. I'm going to put that into this last slot here. So you can see so far, I have the red, the black, and then the yellow, red, and black right here. Okay, so step 35 is a little long. I had to pause, make sure that I'm putting the next wires in the correct place. So let's start with the IR sensor cable, and that is the, let's see, that's red, black, and white. You'll notice that it has one little wire, it has 2 empty slots, and then it has 2 wires. I want the side with the 2 wires facing me, which is the right side of the unit. And I'm going to come over here to the board, and there's this wonderful orange area. I want the bottom set of pins, and that's what I'm going to connect to. So I've got that in place. Now the next part that I'm doing is going to be the extruder motor cable, and that's one of these red, black, and green ones. Okay, here it is. And I know it's the extruder cable, not just by the color, but because it has the little E label on it. And I'm gonna bring that over to where my other multicolored labels are, where the X, Y, and Z axis. And there's one more slot down here, so let me place that in here. And I apologize if I get in front of the camera to do that. Now I'm going to take the extruder thermistor cable. Let me pull that one down. I moved it out of the way for a moment. And that's the cable. It's red and black, but you'll notice that it has a yellow and green label on it. And that cable is going to come over here, okay? And it's going to go right above that print fan cable in this slot. And then I have one cable more, and that's the Pinda cable. It's the one in the black sleeve. Okay, and you'll notice the 4 wires on it. I'm going to take that one and I'm going to put it right here. Okay, so I think there's one to the 3rd connection. I'm going to slide that one in. Now I've placed all of, or connected all of the extruder cables. Now I'm going to connect the LCD cables, that's step 36. With the LCD cables, remember that they're marked. There's one with a single stripe and one with 2 stripes. So I'm going to first take the one with 1 stripe, and I want to make sure that the pink side is up, and I want to place that on the outside. Okay, I'll take the one with the 2 stripes, get that here, and again with the pink side up, I want to put it in that slot next to it. Okay, so both are in place. For step 37, we just double checked all of our connections, that every wire was in the right place, every cable in the right place. Now for step 38, I'm going to take my M3 40 screw, or M3 by 40 screw. And on the back of the case, you'll see a hole right here. I'll go ahead and put this, or tighten that. While I'm tightening it, I should note that we were a little frustrated with the cable management, or the lack of cable management guidelines, but Prusa has noted on its website that it will provide more guidelines for that. Right now, and you'll see a photo of it, we just did the best we could to push the wires into the case before closing it and making sure that nothing is cinched. So we've skipped step 39. Step 39 was simply to put the anti-vibrational feet on the bottom of the unit. We did that in an earlier step. So moving on to step 40, I'm collecting parts again to assemble a spool holder. So what I need is the double spool holder, the centerpiece, and then the two arms. The arms are identical, so it doesn't matter which way they go in. For step 41, or excuse me, it doesn't matter which goes on which side. It does matter which way they go in. For step 41, I'm going to take the center spool holder and hold that with the clip facing me. Now, before I turn that, I want to show you that there are some grooves in here, and that's how that will align. Now, also, before I go in there, just to show you, when they are inside, they're just going to marry like this. So let me go ahead and place the first arm in, and now align the second arm. So step 42, I'll take my spool holder with the C facing the back of the machine. Okay, you can see that. I'm rotating it so it's facing you, or at least the opening is. Here's the front of the frame. I'm going to come here to the center. I'm going to start at the top and then just snap that in place. Okay, so if you're wondering why I took such a big deep breath, well, it's gummy bear time, which is the next step. What is that, 42? So we can have 15% of our gummies. Erica will have 3 and I'll have 3. And then the 43rd step is just a congratulations from Prusa. Oh my God, we actually assembled this. So coming next will be a pre-flight check, but we are done with assembly.